You're in for a treat. It's Rabbi in the hot seat. Taking your questions, write them in. All of suggestions, go. Hit me up, let's go.
Rabbi, what are your thoughts on signing a prenup before a wedding?
Well, in general, I would have thought that it's not a good idea because it might show that you just don't trust each other. And we never enter marriage with even the thought that if it doesn't work, we'll get divorced. I think that's a very, very unhealthy way. However, nowadays, and we did cover this in a different episode, with this whole not giving a get and stuff like that, I think we should have a compulsory one that people could say, I really don't want to sign this because I do really trust you and I do love you and there's no way we're going to get divorced, but we have to sign it just in case, God forbid, something does happen. And no one gets married really thinking that they're going to get divorced, I hope. And yet we see a lot of divorce. So I think actually that a probably enforced prenup might be a particularly good thing. Just me personally, I went into marriage, the word divorce was not anywhere near my consciousness. I didn't think for a second, if it doesn't work, I'll just get out of this. I was like, I am making a commitment for life. Whatever we go through, I am in this 100%. If we need therapy, we'll go to therapy, whatever we need. But I'm fully 100% committed to this person for the rest of my life. And there would be almost nothing that could ever make me say, okay, now it's time for us to part ways.
Why do people wear tzitzit? And why do some people have a blue string in their tzitzit?
A lovely question. We wear tzitzit because the Torah tells us that if you wear a four-cornered garment, you have to put tzitzit on them, which means these strings. And the purpose of the tzitzit is to remind you of the 613 commandments. The gematria of tzitzit is actually 600. And then you have 8 strings and 5 knots, which adds up to 613. And it's really meant to be this external reminder that it's keeping me up with my values, that I'm being conscious. It's basically a mindfulness and consciousness tool that is there all the time, that we can keep tapping into our values and stay on path. Why do some people wear blue ones? Because the Torah says you should have blue string on your tzitzit. We did actually lose the dye. It's a very special dye from a sea snail, and we lost the dye for nearly 2,000 years. And more recently, about 20 years ago, we rediscovered the dye. DNA testing shows it is the dye. So some people say we should now be using it again, whereas other people say no, because we lost the tradition, we have to wait for the Messiah to come to reinstate it. So there are differences of opinions, as often is the way in Judaism, but both of the opinions are trying to do exactly what Hashem wants from us. I personally have blue in my strings, just because I think it's pretty cool. But it is a mitzvah in the Torah, and actually the Torah says, why do we have blue in our strings? Because the blue reminds us of the sea, and the sea reminds us of the sky, and the sky reminds us of God's throne, and God's throne reminds us of spirituality and God, and that's why we do it. And some people say, why don't you just say the blue reminds me of God? And we say, because Jewish spiritual growth has to go in stages. You go from the blue to the sea to the sky, and you're trying to expand your consciousness in this healthy way to really be aware that Hashem really is in every particle of existence. So I want to live in this mindful and conscious way. Actually, I have a funny story. One of my students, he grew up religious, and he was walking down the road in Brooklyn with a tzitzit, and this blacked out car drives up to him with his loud boombox music, gangster music, and the window goes down, and there's an African American man, and he says to this little religious Jewish boy in Brooklyn, "What are those strings?" So he was a bit scared. He thought, oh no, what's going to happen? He just said, it's just to remind us that God is everywhere. And the man said to him, I got to get me some of those strings, and drove away. I think that's cool. The other reason I love tzitzit, by the way, is some people want to get out of doing mitzvahs. I want to be pator from a mitzvah. So I'm not going to eat bread, because if I eat bread, then I'm going to have to do Birkat Hamazon, benching. I think that's a crazy thing to do, because I want to speak to Hashem and have gratitude. Tzitzit is the opposite, because you don't actually have to wear a four-cornered garment. You don't have to wear one at all, but I'm wearing one just so I get to put strings on it to fulfill a mitzvah. That shows how much I value the relationship with God.
I'm Catholic, but I believe my family has Ashkenazi blood from Lithuania. I recently did a genetic ancestry test. Can I explore my Judaism because of these results?
You don't need any reason to explore Judaism. Many people who convert, they convert just because they started learning or they had some spiritual awakening. So the fact that you had this test and this history, maybe that's sparking something within your consciousness to pursue it, but there doesn't need to be any reason. In fact, Judaism says that there are two types of convert. There are those who actually do have a Jewish soul, so maybe you're one of those. And it's because you have a Jewish soul that got stuck in a non-Jewish body that you're starting to have this craving and this yearning to learn about Judaism. And then going to the mikveh, doing the conversion process, just kind of reveals the soul. And then there's someone else who they did not have a Jewish soul, and the conversion, literally when they come out of the mikveh, they are given a Jewish soul, a whole new entity. The first breath that they take in coming out of the mikveh, the word for breath is neshima and the word for soul is neshama. They breathe in their Jewish soul. In fact, I tell all of my students who are converting not to waste that moment. I'll never get to do that. I was born a Jew. But someone who converts has this amazing moment where you can go under the water of the mikveh and then hold your breath and then come up, breathe in, and you're an entirely new spiritual entity. So yes, I think everyone should pursue the wisdom that they feel that they need in order to live the greatest life they can. Just in case, you should know the process is not very easy to convert. It's not just like, my great-grandparents were probably Jewish and I'm just going to eat some chicken soup and convert. No, there's a real deep commitment to living in line with Jewish belief and Jewish practice. And it's a whole process to get there. It could take 2 to 4 years. So yes, you can definitely start learning about Judaism and the Jewish philosophy, but understand that to really become a Jew would take a lot of effort and commitment.
Rabbi, you recently said that challenges make you stronger. What about people with physical disabilities and handicaps who suffer and don't have the capacity to get stronger and learn lessons from it?
That's a very sensitive and important question, and it really depends on who you're talking about. I often speak about Ari Spitz. Ari Spitz lost both of his legs, one arm and one thumb, in Gaza. And he's very physically disabled at this point in time, but he's not suffering. Suffering is a state of mind. It's not fair, why me, I hate this. In fact, he's living a greater life than he would have had it not happened. And he's training and he's helping other people and he's encouraging people. So not just because you have a physical disability, does that mean you are doomed to suffer and be a victim to that. And many great people we see in the Special Olympics, you have many great people who suffer from very difficult physical challenges. If you're talking about someone who is completely, almost mentally unaware and incapable of growth in any sort of way, so our sages teach us that sometimes those are souls that already completed their mission and they've come down to help other people, for example, the parents of those children, to learn to just have sacrifice, self-sacrifice and surrender and unconditional love and becoming a real giver. So someone who literally is so mentally not aware that they can't grow in any way, their purpose in this world is to help others reach their personal potential.
Since Jews have a unique spiritual mission and soul, is there an ideal to have our closest relationship with other Jews rather than non-Jews?
I think in any walk of life, your ideal is to have your closest friendship with people who share your values and your mission. So, if you're a sports fan, then you want to hang around with the people who support the same team as you. Lawyers have the lawyers club and hikers go hiking together. So it's not just a Jewish, non-Jewish thing. In general, you want to be in the community that feeds your mission and your purpose. And that's how you can actually create this team and this power of working together to create amazing things in the world. Judaism does say that we should actually love the whole of humanity and we should go beyond ourselves and we should be a light unto the nations. But in order to do that, we have to have a very firmly established within our own circle first so that we can reach our potential as an individual and as a nation. And from that point, then we can go out and influence the rest of the world. But there's nothing wrong with being friends with non-Jews. Non-Jews also have the same purpose and values in life in general, to be a good person and make the world a better place. So if you grew up around non-Jews, you don't just stop being friends with people because they're not your same religion as you. In fact, it would probably make you a more rounded and healthy, universal humanitarian to be friends with all different types of people from all different cultures and religions and backgrounds.
Is wanting to be intimate with someone a good enough reason to marry them?
Is that a real question? You know what? I'm going to completely respect this question and say whoever this person is Talia is so immensely holy and pure and connected that she would never, ever even consider being intimate with anyone unless they had this deep spiritual connection, share values, are attracted to each other, communicate in a deep, deep way. So therefore, yes, the wanting to be intimate as an expression of this amazing spiritual, emotional, and values connection is enough. But I really had to stretch at that because, unfortunately, Talia, you're so pure and perfect, and you should remain that way. Most people would just want to be intimate with anyone. Well, I've said this before, and people don't like when I say this, but in general, your general 17, 18, 19-year-old guy, or really 28-year-old guy, they really would all be intimate with really most people. And so that's certainly not a reason to marry someone. Especially as we say, intimacy is meant to be only within marriage, and it's meant to be an expression of a spiritual bond, a spiritual oneness, and an emotional intimacy. So maybe your question is coming from that high spiritual place, but be aware that there are those out there who aren't as pure and sweet and holy as you, and you should be blessed to find the right person at the right time.
What, if any, contraception is allowed?
Jewish belief says that you can't just use contraception willy-nilly. That is a term. Do you say that in America? Jewish belief is that you can't just use contraception whenever you like for any little reason just because you want to have fun. There are specific cases and reasons why you're allowed to use contraception. And in those cases when you're allowed to use contraception, we say you can use anything apart from a condom. And why is that? And I know the feminists out there are going to be like, because you can't take away from the man's pleasure. But actually it's a very, very deep Kabbalistic idea. We say that the God's name, Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, is the essence of all of reality. And the man represents Kudsha Brichu, which is the male aspect of God, and the woman represents the Shechina, Shechinte, which is the female aspect of God. And the first three letters of God's name, Yud and Hey and Vav, is the masculine aspect, and the final letter, the Hey, is the Shechina, the feminine aspect. The Malchut is called, the Shechina in creation. So the Yud represents the head, the Hey represents the body, the Vav is the male organ, and the Hey is the female organ. The Yud itself, however, has a little tuki on top. It's called the Kotz, and we say that that represents something called Keter. Keter means ratzon, it means desire, it means the highest essence of what God is. So when we are being physically intimate, it's the ultimate connection of Kudsha Brichu u'Shechinte, the male and the female aspects of godliness. So we want the Keter, the crown, to go into the Malchus, the kingship, the royalty. We're crowning the royalty, and that's actually bringing God's divine presence back into the world. So if the seed, which is representing this Keter, doesn't enter into the Malchus, which represents the Shechina, we're actually not doing the spiritual, Kabbalistic fixing that this physical union is meant to give us. Okay, that was great. Another episode, bit of Talia there, talking about intimacy. Awesome question, by the way, Talia. Don't hold back on any of your questions out there. We spoke about many, many different things: consciousness, intimacy, things that are very important. These are things that people are on mind: conversion, following your dreams, Jews, non-Jews, everything. Really, really important issues. Everyone who watches this series comes out to me and they say, my goodness, this is an amazing series. We've got to get it out to more people. Share, like, notifications, everything. Let's get this out to the world. I'm not joking. If we could get like 200,000 views on each video, I honestly, seriously think the whole world would be definitely a much better, more conscious, healthy, and happy place. Let's get it out there. I love you guys. See you next time. You're in for a treat. It's Rabbi in the hot seat. Taking your questions, write them in. All of suggestions, go.